Thank you. So this is my first time in Buffalo, and I'm very excited. My name is Ruggiero. I'm 22 years old, and I'm proud to say that I'm a cancer survivor. So, I started dancing when I was 5 years old. I went to the dance studio with my mom. Still catching my breath. To pick up my sister. And I looked in the little peephole in the door, and I just turned to my mom, and my sister was 3 at the time, I was about 5. I know, yeah, it was 5. And whatever that they were doing, it was a ballet tap combo class. They were jumping around, tapping their feet. I just thought it looked really cool and fun. So I said to my mom, that's what I want to do. So my dad takes me out of baseball lessons, soccer lessons. My mom puts me into dance lessons. Still catching my breath. It's a lot of work. So, I got enrolled into my first dance class. It was a jazz class, and I loved it. So the next year, I said to my mom, I want to take tap. And she said, okay, we'll get you your first pair of tap shoes. So I got my first pair of tap shoes, I went into tap class, saw everyone else in the class was already tapping. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I just kept going along with it. And eventually I got the hang of it. It just kind of started going, you know, the rhythm was just flowing through my body. And eventually I auditioned for a professional tap company at the age of 10, called the New Jersey Tap Ensemble, under the direction of Devin Mitchell, and I got in. And I was so excited. I was in middle school, 10 years old, and I was tapping once a week with some, you know, amazing rhythm tap dancers. So I started to learn a whole lot more. As I got into high school, I got more involved in music and band and playing the drums. And drumming and tap dancing, as many of you probably know, they just go hand and foot. One foot, one peg, you know, in my case. So, as the end of high school came along, I really wanted to go forward in the arts. And all my friends were picking majors in political science and business and fashion studies, and I didn't know what I wanted to go to college for. So, a dancer, performer, I just said musical theater. Seems like fun. I could sing, I could dance, I can act, just what I wanted to do. So I got into school at Montclair State University. I auditioned for their program, got in, had a great freshman year, did about 4 different shows, traveled down to Miami dancing, and the start of my sophomore year, I felt a pain in my right leg. And being a dancer, I just thought, maybe this is a fracture or a bone bruise or something like that. So I had an x-ray taken, and after that, the orthopedic surgeon that took the x-ray just said, I want to send you to Memorial Sloan Kettering in the city, New York City. This looks like a lesion, a tumor, or a mass of some sort. So he didn't want to touch it. So, get ready, you know, I go into the city for this appointment. And just based off of the pain that I was in, the doctor said, I want to operate now. You know, like the next day now. And he operated, and right after that biopsy, I was told that I was diagnosed with osteosarcoma bone cancer. I was 19 and very scared. And the first thing that my doctor said, he said, you know, the next steps are going to possibly be chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery. And the first thing I said, thinking chemotherapy, was, I'm gonna have to buy a lot of hats to cover my head. But as time went on, the final pathology report came back from the biopsy, and I was just going to need surgery. So from November 2009 until about May 2010, I had about nine different surgeries just to get rid of the cancer. And during one of my surgeries in May, the doctors made an incision into my leg while I was in the OR, and they found all new cancer cells that grew in my bone, in my soft tissue, and the possible threat that they could be in my lungs. So, the next step to be taken was amputation. So I cried, and I yelled at my doctor, wondering why I had to have my leg amputated, why this happened, had to happen to me, a dancer. And he said, we don't know why, this is just a dangerous, deadly disease, but we need to save your life. So, at the end of that conversation, I promised him that I would tap dance again, because I knew of Peg Leg Bates. Peg Leg Bates was an old tap dancer back in the day, if any of you know of him, who lost his leg in a cotton gin accident at the age of 12. And he got up, kept tap dancing, appeared on the Ed Sullivan show. I believe he was the opening act. Every night he was on that show. So I said to my doctor, I promise you I'll tap dance again. And he looked in my eye, he shook my hand, and he said, I promise I'll be in the front row. And then he vowed to save my life. But unfortunately, he hasn't been in the front row since. And I like to think that that's because he's out there saving lives every day. So that's a good thing. So after that final pathology report came back after my leg was amputated. And with that report, it looked as if I was going to need a lot of chemotherapy. So I started chemotherapy in June of 2010, continued throughout all of 2010, had 2 lung surgeries, found out that there was 12 tumors in my lungs all in all, and luckily the chemo killed them all, so that was good. Then towards the end of chemo, I got put on a clinical trial study drug known as MTP for an additional 9 months. And so I was just devastated. I'm feeling like I'm seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and then I get told that I have to have another 9 months of chemo. So it was rough. But all in all, I still had the same goal, and that was the tap dance again. So I finished my last dose of chemotherapy October 21st, 2011. That was a year ago. I went into one of my doctor's appointments, my prosthetist, who makes all my prosthetic legs, and I said, I really want to tap down. Just get me a metal pipe or something, or a peg, and stick it on the end of one of my sockets. And so he said, okay. And I went off on my way. And one night, I put on the peg leg. It was after a rehearsal for a show I was in, so I was all alone. I had some studio time. And I just said, let's just see what happens. Let's see what my brain is going to tell my body to do, like muscle memory. So I remember I stood up, and I just thought of a time set. And I just started going. And that was it. That was the time set. And originally I just started taking videos of myself. And I just said, well, I want to tap dance again, I want to learn from my videos, I want to learn from Peg Leg Bates. I want to recreate this entire thing. So I started taking videos just to kind of track my progress. And my roommate comes in one night and says, you got to put this on YouTube. People have to see what you're doing. And so I said, sure, why not? I'll just stick it on the internet and see what happens. And then the next couple of days, the phone started ringing. My mother's in tears, she's crying. My son is tap dancing again. My doctor, who said, I'll be in the front row, he calls me up. He's practically in tears. He said, I knew you would be able to do it. If there's one person that did, it was you. And ever since then, I've been tapping, kind of traveling the country, reaching out to children and everyone else, people just telling them my story, talking to children in hospitals, and just trying to get the word out there. If someone's out there, going through something like I am, and maybe they just see this, then maybe they'll just want to get up and start dancing again. That's what it's about. Thank you. So I'll leave you with your closing prayer. Thank you.